Hi, Cheryl Sleboda is here, and we are making armor for these great cosplay costumes.
I know, it's like, this is it. We're gonna actually build something today.
But the thing that's crazy to me is we're essentially making metal out of foam.
Right, and so this is an EVA foam that's closed cell, so it's great for spray paint and all sorts of other like applications, and so I think we should just get started.
Well, let's do it.
So the first thing we're gonna do is, I've already cut my pieces, my pattern pieces out, and we're just gonna cut a piece of this foam.
So I can see the pattern pieces down there, and so you basically work it out in paper as a rough draft before you're ready to cut it out of your material, because like me, you're a stingy hoarder and
Yes.
you don't want to waste anything.
I agree, and so what I'm doing is I'm taking my foam, I'm cutting this piece out. I've already got all these scanned into the machine, and I have my patterns ready to go. And
so now I am just going to cut them out for you. I want to make sure that the foam is stuck to the mat. So I'm going to go ahead and slide it into the machine. And because this foam is 2 millimeters, I am using a slightly heavier blade, but I'll get this cutting for you.
Awesome.
There are our patterns. And all I have to do is scan in my material, because again, we cut a smaller piece so we wouldn't waste anything.
Right, exactly.
So we could go ahead and do this.
Right, and we have so many pieces to cut that you're gonna be cutting that while I'm demoing
Well, I
on this
also think
other
like
stuff.
when you're making left shoulder, right shoulder, you know, like all kinds of armor, or you're really doing it assembly line style, it's great to be able to just have all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna cut these and you go ahead and get started on the next step.
Okay, so the other piece, so the pieces that she's cutting are the smaller pieces of this shoulder armor called a pauldron. And we're gonna work on the top shoulder piece that actually has a dart cut into it. So when you are looking at that piece, you'll see here that it's got this V
So this is
shape.
just like a clothing dart.
It is, it's very much like a clothing dart, because when you actually fold it, you'll see that you get this nice curve. And so that's what we're going for. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of contact cement. This stuff, you know, again, super goopy, but you're just gonna paint a little bit on, and what I'm gonna do is let this dry for just a little bit, and then once it's got a little bit of dryness, you'll stick these two together and they are not going to come apart. So again, this, once you stick it,
it is stuck. You are not going to be unstuck. So this is kind of like a glue once. So I know you have one that is already stuck.
I do, yes. And so what I'm going to do then is, because we've got a seam right here, so we're going to need to actually sand that down. And I'm going to do that with my rotary tool.
Okay.
But we need to
put on some safety gear, because obviously there'll be little particles floating around.
And we don't want to breathe in any of that
look
stuff.
at that. So I have your other pieces cut, and I'll have them ready for you when you need them.
Okay, so we're gonna turn this on. I've got a sanding device on the end here, and I'm just going to gently, so you can see this really does sand.
Now I was just thinking, like, can you push too hard? I understand also your hand is behind there.
It's not very thick, so yeah, if you push down too hard, it's gonna go right through the material. So just gently, and I'm just doing it sort of in a feathering effect.
I noticed that you keep picking it up. It's not continuous. It's like tap, 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 tap.
I'm just trying to take the seam down a little bit.
Now, is there I don't know a lot about sanding blocks. Is there a grit or a level or something like that?
Oh yeah, yes, you want to use a very fine grit.
So this is just like sandpaper that come in different grits.
Yes, exactly. So once you have it sanded down enough where, you know, you can't really see the seam anymore, you can then use your heat gun to continue to shape it. And so what I'm going to do is do that with the heat gun.
So do we need to have our masks on for the heat gun? I was going to say. It was just really for the dust particles from obviously all of that sanding.
And you also want to protect your eyes too, if you know you really see a lot of material kicking back up. So heat gun, we're going to...
Now this is already curved.
It is very curved, but we want it to fit the shoulder a little bit more. And so again, I'm just going to... I don't want to get very close to this because it's, again, a very thin material, so you can scorch it. We don't want to scorch it. And you can see it's getting like super soft. And what I want to do is just heat it enough to where
that while it's in that soft phase, you can mold it.
Then you can mold it.
Now I noticed that you're using a craft heat gun, as opposed to like a professional paint removing heat gun.
Right.
And those big guns get very, very hot.
They
Would that be
do.
okay to use here or not?
It's totally fine to use it. Again, you're gonna have to play with how far away you wanna be from it so that you're not actually scorching your material. But the idea is that I'm going to heat it, but then shape it, and then I'm just gonna
You're just
wait.
gonna hold it for a second.
Right.
Now, if you wanted something hardier, you wanted armor that really was crazy, do you just glue two pieces together?
Yes.
Or
Yeah, and there's a 6 millimeter thickness
okay,
as well.
so you could also just cut it thicker.
Exactly. Now, when you have seams here that you want to actually can still cover up, you can always use like a acrylic caulk, and you'll just put a little bit on there, take your finger, dip it in some water.
My favorite tool, actually.
Yes, exactly, and just glide it over, and it's gonna just cover that seam up, and you're gonna have
a nice
really
smooth surface to work on.
Exactly. Now I've already heat gunned this and everything. It is actually more shaped to the to your arm.
To be armor.
To be armor.
Quite literally for your arm.
Exactly.
I actually never thought about that before. So then the next step is obviously painting.
Right. And so when you're painting it, if you want a very high shine plastic look to your armor, you're going to need to use like a rubber coating. And there's all sorts of rubber coatings on the market, but it's like a spray paint, shake it well. You're gonna give it a couple of coats, and that's gonna create a layer that you can then basically paint over and have more of a hard plastic look, but still have a very soft, flexible material.
Which is comfortable to wear.
Yes.
Because although these metal pieces look very firm, they're soft and cushiony and not weighing you down. It's not like, 100 pounds of armor like they had in the old days.
No, and they're super soft. So.
Should we take a look
Yes.
at the armor when
Yes.
it's actually kind of finished over here? So I see the example right here on the shoulder. It looks beautiful. It looks like you've actually used some metal pieces in here.
Yeah, so I use brads to attach them, so it actually will, move up and down. So when you raise your arm, so it's got,
cool!
I know, it's got all sorts of motion. It's really neat. So
and then all these pieces, right?
Yeah, they're all done with that foam in the different thicknesses, and I spray painted it in different colors. Again, you can get. You can airbrush it, you can do all sorts of cool stuff. Now you spray painted
foam, which is usually a no-no.
Right, this stuff, because it is a higher density, it also does not disintegrate when you use spray paint on it.
Perfect, Cheryl, thank you.
Thank you.
Brother International Corporation is the maker of the Scan and Cut home and hobby cutting machine with a built-in scanner and is known for supplying innovative sewing and embroidery machines. ScanandCut.com